everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Sound cap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shot for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop him. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome into another episode of the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined as always by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good on a winning streak.
Yes, we are. And Green Pastures seem to be ahead as well. And we're also joined by Jared Good. Jared, how you doing?
Doing wonderful. This is the final stretch, the really fun part of the season. So happy to be here to talk about it anyway.
And so first thing we got to talk, Jared, how was the vacation?
Vacation was good. It was absolutely wonderful. Happy to be back though. Minnesota is always home. You know, I got a special spot in my heart for Minnesota, so it's always nice to come home to that. But yeah, we had a blast.
Awesome. Good to hear. And where was it? Florida or?
We were just a little bit north of Cancun. We were in Isle Mujeres. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, nice little resort, beautiful wedding, and yeah, it was wonderful. But happy to be back in Minnesota.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about it. Timberwolves are on a 4-game winning streak. So let's go with this. Let's start with you, Chris. What has impressed you the most about the Wolves over this stretch?
I wouldn't say much impressed me, to be honest, but what I have liked is Taurean Prince kind of got some swagger back the last couple of games. I mean, he went out hurt a little bit, but remember the 5 to 8 games that he was playing really well this year? He had this swagger, like this attitude, like he'd, throw his 3-point finger up there when he made one, was kind of talking to the crowd, and kind of like you could tell even by his body movement that he had some swagger, like he felt like he was actually a quality NBA player. And then that left, and he was a ghost again for 10 games or whatever it was. And now these last couple games, he's kind of had that back again. And that's huge. We need that so bad. Like we've talked about, I've beaten it like a dead horse. Like we need something off our bench that's consistent, that can give us consistent quality anything. I'm not even asking for 20 points. I'm asking for give me 10 rebounds consistently. Give me, something consistent. And I've hoped for Beverly, I've hoped for Beasley, I've hoped for Prince, I've hoped for Noel, and we're starting to get a little bit of that, and with our bench play, Beverly or Beasley's been looking good, and hopefully Prince can get it going, and playing against these GLeague Scrubs, maybe give them a little confidence to lead into the playoffs. That's what we need.
And you were mentioning GLeague Scrubs, and we talked about this a little bit before the show. That's why I am a little worried about tonight, particularly because D'Lo and Ant aren't playing tonight. Just there's something about players who, not necessarily great players, but players who are playing for their lives and playing for like a spot on the team and playing to try to impress someone. When you're driven like that, there's something about that kind of scares me about tonight's game, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. But Jared, what have you seen out of the Wolves, particularly these last 4 games?
Just kind of to piggyback off of what Chris was saying a little bit here. Our bench has actually produced and been producing pretty well, actually, to my surprise. I believe I heard a stat the other day that the Timberwolves have like a top 5 bench in terms of production, which as a guy that watches every single game, like we all do, I guess to me it doesn't really seem like our bench is all that good, in my opinion. But we have been getting the production again lately, so that definitely helps. But I definitely think it's more of a thing that's been there more recently. So I'd really like to see that. We talked, I believe, on our last podcast before we went on a little bit of our break. That was our concern moving forward, was our bench production. And to our request, they have been playing pretty damn well. A guy Malik Beasley, who's just seemed to be on a complete roller coaster almost all season long, just ups and downs. And then now I believe he's like, I don't remember the exact stat, but I believe he's like 21 out of 36 in his last like 36 threes, which is insane. Like Alan Horton on the radio had it the game prior to this game and said he was 17 out of 20, his last 27 or something crazy. So unbelievable stuff from Malik, just seeing the ball go in the basket again. And it's a huge difference for this team because in my opinion, I still look at our bench as it's not complete, but if we get one piece to kind of warm up in the microwave, we can be all right. And that's kind of been what's happening. And it hasn't been the same guy every single night. We've seen Noel have a really good game recently. Prince has been kind of hot and cold as well. There's just a couple guys that have been getting in there, scrubbing it up and doing enough to get production for us to be successful, at least recently.
Yeah, it's something that I've been kind of impressed by. Not he's shooting, yes, but also a little bit of Taurean Prince when he gets the ball and goes to the rim. I feel like he's been pretty effective going to the rim and getting some shots to fall that way. Chris, go ahead. What do you got?
Something I forgot to say is McDaniels.
Yeah.
More than just that spot up three. Like he's starting, like in the beginning of the year, I said, this season is going to be huge for me because everyone was writing him as the next Scottie Pippen or something like that. And I was like, let's see. And he started out terrible. And now he's adding a little bit to his bag. Like he's adding a little, attack the closeout. He's adding a little dribble drive. He's cutting. Finally, we're getting some cutters. Even with Cat, Karl Anthony Towns being the worst fancy passer in the NBA history. He's even hitting him on some cuts, so I like the development of him, which just kind of these games when we're out a lot of our starters, some of these guys that are like second tier guys getting some more run can really help.
Yeah, and some you say, and we'll talk about Towns in a minute, which we got to. We do got to mention Western Conference Player of the Week. I mean, that's big. But Jared, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up something real quick, and it was tonight's game. Gabe, you said this in our opening monologue here that it concerns you. This is a game that scares me as well. Both teams are, like you guys say, playing with GLeague Scrubs. I looked at the line. I think it was originally the Wolves were favored by like 16. Now it's down to 14. And it just seems like one of those games where we could lull ourselves to sleep.
Right.
It's a game that concerns me just because of, like not having point guard leadership that's normally there. And a couple key pieces aren't playing. This is one that scares me. And this is a game that, obviously we can't be losing to Portland if we have aspirations of being the 6th or 5th seed in the West. But this is kind of one of those games where you lean on your Western Conference Player of the Week and Karl Anthony Towns and say, dude, you are 20 times better than any other player on the floor. Get it done for us.
Right. This is what I hope happens tonight. And this is like best case scenario. Do you guys remember that game? And now I know, Chris, you weren't really watching the Jimmy Butler years, right? Chris, you weren't really.
I was the Sixers. I was watching Sixers.
You're watching the Sixers, okay. But Jared, I don't know if you remember that game where we were playing the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks were a bad team, but we needed a win for playoff seeding. And Towns comes out and puts up like 56 and just dominates Atlanta. Do you remember that game?
Not off the top of my head, but it does sound familiar.
That I feel like that's the kind of game we might need tonight. Now, the fact that is it Simmons or Simons? Simmons? Simons. Okay. The fact that he's not playing does that's big.
This is a YMCA ball game right here, and this one we can't lose, really.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they've been starting a guy on a 10-day contract. Like they've literally had a guy on a 10-day contract starting the last 2 weeks of their games. Like this team is really bad, and that's and not to throw water on everybody's fire here, but or I don't even know if that's a term, not to put a wet blanket on people's excitement, but I'm seeing a lot of chatter about how dang good this guy and that guy, who all year has been pretty bad for us. Like, oh, this guy's so good. And I don't want to say anything because I like to let people just be in their happy place.
Sure.
But we're not playing anybody. And if the guy that you like is playing the bench, is playing against the bench of Portland or the bench of these teams we've been playing, dude, they're playing against terrible players. Like, I'm not concerned about his stats versus some guy who, they picked up off the street, come on, man.
Right. And I agree with that. I will say this, and this isn't more about individual players, but it's more kind of about the team. The Wolves are winning games that they usually don't win. Like those games that you go into and you're like, oh, we need this game. It's the second of a back-to-back, but we're playing a bad Portland team. We're starting to win those kind of games where okay, you would expect us to win, but the jury's still out on it. So to their credit, and we'll see if we can do that tonight, right? But I will say so far this season, we've been winning those kind of games.
Well, we're a better team.
Right.
I mean, this is the best Timberwolves team I think that we've had in a very long time. Even I would say they're better than the Butler here, as long as when we're healthy. I mean, the trouble is like you were talking about Cat going off for 50. It's hard for a big man to go off for anything if he doesn't have a little man getting him the ball where he can be effective.
Right.
So it's going to be hard for Cat, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. He still should be able to out-talent everybody.
Right. I agree. And so let's kind of look at it at something else right now. So obviously the play-in for the Western Conference, we got us at 7 right now. Then we got the Clippers, who I don't think are going to fall below the Lakers. I don't know. I just don't see it happening. Got the Lakers, who are going to be there. And then you got the Pelicans. Now, I was watching the Pelicans last night, and I made a post like this in the group. If it comes down to it, let's say for some reason we lose our first play-in game, if it comes down to that. Now, I know it's this podcast is called The Race for 6, but still, if it comes down to it, I don't want to play the Pelicans. I really don't. What do you think, Jared? Would you agree?
It's interesting that you bring this up because we've kind of talked about this before, but there's a couple teams down there that I necessarily don't want to play in a play-in game. But I would ask you this: would you rather play the Lakers and the Pelicans and need to win one of 2 games? I guess you would need to win one of those games. I think I would rather be in that spot, knowing that we would then get 7 games against Memphis as it sits. Whereas if we get the 6th seed as it currently sits, we would play the Warriors. I don't know. It's obviously, kind of apples to oranges. I think the end goal is to get in a 7-game playoff series, no matter who we play. I think that is the way we should look at things. But towards the very, very end of the year, it's going to be kind of interesting to see where things shake up, because if you ask me, I would like every bit of an opportunity to play Memphis in 7 games opposed to the Warriors. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, we handled the Warriors pretty well recently. I know they had some guys out, but yeah, I don't know. You don't want to play somebody with the pedigree of the Warriors for sure, but Memphis, I don't know, man.
It's not pretty anyway, but
we beat them. people are happy that we beat them, but they got like 27 offensive rebounds. That was more of a fluke for us to win that game. Like offensive rebounds are a matter of out effort, out athletic, out size, and that's consistent. I don't know if D'Lo going bananas is consistent enough to rely on. Yeah, I mean, I guess just line them up. We'll play anybody, but that's definitely a real good question. Who would you rather have? I don't know.
I mean, my initial thought is I would rather play a 7-game series against anybody opposed to playing 1 or 2 games against the Pelicans or the Lakers. And I think that the Lakers are garbage, but you don't tell that to LeBron if he's the 10th seed. That's all I got to say.
Especially if AD's back.
Right, and that's a big factor to it. But I mean, also you look at a team like the Pelicans. What if they get Zion back and you got McCollum, Zion, and Brandon Ingram? I mean, that's like I said in the group. That's a legit big 3 on paper at least. I mean,
yeah, that could be one of those things that messes it up too. I hope if Zion comes back, they don't try to feature him and they just let him grab rebounds and put in putbacks. And, just be a guy who catches on the roll because you don't want to mess what you've got going right now because that team is humming right now. They're kind of like we were when we were hot and we were like number 1 overall in efficiency and stuff like that. That's where they're at right now, I saw.
And the problem with that is they just had a game, I believe it was yesterday, they pissed a game away against Denver, and it's like, well, I mean, there's so much going on within these like 4 spots. It's like you don't even know who to root for anymore at this point because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, let's let Denver lose a couple games, jump into 6, and then knock the next wall down. But it's like, oh my God, everything's just going wild right now, and it's really fun time to be a basketball fan.
It is, yeah. And I think one of the best thing about it is scoreboard watching. Like, when was the last time? Well, the answer is 2017, but really the last time that we got to say like, oh, what are the Nuggets doing? What are the Clippers doing? What are even the Lakers doing? What are even the Pelicans? What are the Kings doing? Stuff like that. Yeah. So
I mean, I could rant about this. For almost an hour, but like I was, like you said, scoreboard watching last night, and I'm kind of checking out some of these teams, and all of a sudden I'm looking at Memphis loses to Houston, and I'm like, wait, didn't they just get the 2 seed? Like, what the hell is going on here? It's just really wild time to be a playoff basketball fan, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride to see who gets it. And see, that's what was so interesting about the trade deadline is you saw these teams like on the outskirts of the 10 seed going for it. Like the Pelicans going for McCollum. You got, as we talked about on the show, we got the Kings going for Sabonis. Like the whole play-in thing is like, do you think if the play-in tournament wasn't a thing that the Kings and the Pelicans make those 2 moves?
I think the Kings do.
Oh, you do?
Just because I think that they've realized that those 2 young guards couldn't really cohabitate. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Pelicans would have, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I think what the Pelicans are really doing is trying to build a team around a Zion-less squad.
Sure.
And I think their plan is to try to get a haul for Zion so that they can build a win-now team. I don't think Zion's in their future.
I definitely think the Kings and Pacers trade still makes sense. Since that trade has happened, I think both teams have looked better. In a way, it's kind of hard to say that Indiana's looked any better, but that Halliburton kid at playing point guard for the time that Brogdon was out, man, he looked really good. And now that Brogdon's back, it obviously changes things up a little bit. But yeah, I think that trade in particular made sense for both teams because, like you were saying, Fox and Halliburton next to each other it wasn't going to work long term. And now you add a big guy like Sabonis who can do a little bit of everything and be extremely effective at pretty much everything that he does. I think that was still my favorite move of the deadline, just because I think it made both teams better, even though neither one of them are probably going anywhere this year. But futuristic moves, I think that was an important one. But yeah, no, I think the Pelicans is interesting because that was a move I never saw coming, was them getting CJ McCollum. It just wasn't on my radar, and I don't think that was on a lot of people's radar because I don't think people thought Portland was just going to blow it up like they did. I mean, they took on pretty much any expiring. They're going to have like $80 million in free agency next year once they cut all these guys that came on. So, I mean, Dame better have some friends because, I mean, they got some money to play with to get some guys in there.
Right. And so here's a quick question, just you can answer quick if you want. But do you think the ship has sailed on this, or do you think there's a chance? Do you think that CJ will ever be an All-Star? And what do you think, Chris? Do you think there's a chance for him to ever make an All-Star team, or no?
It's hard because you can, like, in my mind, you can be an All-Star and not make the team. Like,
Sure.
sometimes there's so many good guards. Like, it's not your fault that there's 3 Hall of Famers still active or something like the guard spot. But yeah, I think he could. I think he could. It would take. Yeah, maybe as a reserve. Yeah, I think you would have to have a good run by the team. He would have to be like looked at as the leader, which I think would happen as an older guy. So I think there's a shot, but I don't think it's anything he loses sleep over.
Right. Jared, anything to add on that, or?
My gut reaction says no, and it's nothing against CJ McCollum as a player, but there's just so many good guards. I know unless he has forward eligibility like Andrew Wiggins, who apparently got gifted an All-Star spot based on his eligibility.
The whole Wiggins argument, anyone can make it nowadays.
I don't know that he's better than, what do we got? Probably 9 or 10. I mean, he's not a top 10 guard in the West to me anyways. Right. So my gut reaction says no, but I think he's a super talented player, but it's one of those things where, how many stars does he have on his team? If it's just him and Ingram, I mean, he's going to command a high usage rate and put up a lot of points. And I think he's got a shot, but I mean, I can think of at least 10 players that I would list above him in voting if I had to vote for next year tomorrow.
Right.
But
here's where I think he might. So, like, remember Mike Conley, who was on Memphis for years and years, and they were good, but never made an All-Star team. Then he goes to the Jazz and has a really good year, and maybe didn't have the stats to do it, but the Jazz were really good. I can see if he makes that kind of move, to a really good team, or if, like you said, the Pelicans get really good, almost like a legacy kind of, hey, we never put you on an All-Star team. Here you go, kind of thing. Not saying he doesn't deserve it, but that's how I can see him kind of making an All-Star team.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the Wolves here. And I'm just going to ask you guys straight up, and I'll start with you, Chris. Do you think that the Wolves have enough to get the 6th seed, or do you think Denver's playing too well? Do you think they have enough to do it? Do you think they can do it?
I think we can. I think that Denver has really pulled some stuff out of the hat this last week. I know they beat some team by 1 point. I know just last night they scored the last 20 points to go into overtime to win that. They have 2 or 3 losses that they just by the skin of their teeth got. So they're not playing that well. I think we can. We just have to do it before they get their horses back. Supposedly, Murray is going to come back come playoff time. I mean, he won't be fully loaded yet, but Michael Porter's going to be back
Jr.,
anytime now, so that'll be a huge add. I tell you what, I think we're a better team than them. So I think we should be able to. What are we, 3 games off of them? 2.5?
I think 2.5. Yeah.
I mean, we've got at least a couple more wins on this little streak here because we're playing these trash squads, so that'll help.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it comes back to health. If we're fully healthy, if Edwards' knee gets, miraculously back to a good spot. Supposedly that injury can take months to get fully healed. But it's more of an inconvenience pain kind of thing, not like you're going to get, not like it's going to all of a sudden rupture or anything.
Right.
So if he can get back, and obviously we're resting D'Lo today, and we're resting some of the other guys. If they can be fresh and be strong to the end, I think we should be able we'll make a run for it. It'll be fun.
Jared, go ahead.
So I think we can get the 6th seed. I think we can catch Denver. It's hard to sit there and judge though, because like Denver and Dallas keep winning these neck and neck games, or they, I watched the Mavericks Lakers game. I don't know, it was sometime last week, and it's like the Lakers were down 20 something. They came all the way back, took the lead, and then they pissed it right away back to Dallas. And I'm like, God, it's like all these games that we're kind of like secretly rooting for, but not like investing a whole lot into.
Right.
It's really hard to like sit there and be like, well, the Timberwolves should be 39-29 here at the end of this, NBA G League schedule that we got, but we're also not catching anybody either. Like all these other teams are winning as well. So I think we can get to 6. I don't think we can get to 5 just because I don't think that we can. I think Dallas is playing too good right now, which is one team that I never feared in the preseason because they just don't have any big men. But the way their guards have been playing, like Luka's been unconscious lately. Even Dinwiddie's kind of like revived a little bit of his career there.
He dropped 40 the other night. Yeah,
like it's like everything that could possibly go right for Dallas since they traded Porzingis away has just kind of worked out really, really well for them. And it's kind of surprised me, but they've been playing unbelievable basketball. The Jazz have obviously kind of quieted down a little bit. They've lost a couple games that they probably shouldn't have, but like they're like, I think 6 games ahead of us. So it's really going to get murky here. I guess my answer would be talk to me in a week and let me know where the standings are at, because we should have 4 free wins, and I don't know what the hell these other teams are going to
do. For sure. I think we can do it. I don't know if we will. It's just, I guess, the pessimistic Wolves fan in me talking about it. But like you said, the Denver keeps winning. And there's somebody saying, yes, they're doing it in like last night. I watched the end of the game. Last night, basically, they won because the Pelicans missed free throws. And that's basically why they went into overtime. Then Jokic picked over. After watching it, I'm absolutely convinced in my mind that Jokic is the MVP of the league. If he gets if he gets them to the 6th seed, like that team to the 6th seed, like that's absolutely carrying a squad. Like almost LeBron type. Like he's basically the focal point of their offense. He's the main assister. He's the main scorer. When they need a bucket, they go to him. When they need someone to do a good pass, they go to him. So yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned missing free throws and stuff at the end of the game, because this was probably a week and a half, or maybe it was just like this last week. I don't remember, but De'Aaron Fox gets fouled down 1. I think the game was got fouled down 1 against the Mavericks. Okay, you got I don't know what he shoots for the free throw line, but I'm assuming it's at least 80-some%. And then he goes out there and clanks the first one, makes the second one. Dallas gets the ball, gets down low. Luka gets free throws and ends the game. And it's like all these little things that like, okay, like as a Wolves fan, you're watching like, all right, just put this team away, like let's gain a game here. And it isn't happening right now. And it's been kind of on some weird stuff too. So it's a tall task, but we'll see what happens.
I think Chris nailed it in our chat over there. Just see what his comment was.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Yeah. So, but I mean that comes with the territory, though. I mean, like whenever we're relevant, you just gotta the negative stuff comes towards you, and it can be it can take hold. But hopefully hopefully everything's coming up Timberwolves to say.
I always laugh when you see tweets from guys like Kendrick Perkins and some of these national media guys starting to mention the Timberwolves, like, oh, yeah, I told you in preseason they're going to be good, or I like what the Wolves are doing. I think Barkley was like, yeah, that Wolves team is kind of dangerous. And I'm sitting here thinking, do we watch them be so painful for so long? And now you guys are going to come in and talk about our team? Like, come on.
I think Kendrick Perkins said about 25 teams were going to make the playoffs preseason just to cover his butt.
I mean, hey, it's not a bad strategy. So
it's not.
I did see Charles Barkley. Now I know LeBron obviously is LeBron and had an amazing game, obviously 56 points. But I will say I did see that Charles Barkley and a couple other people getting angry at the network because they keep showing Laker games, which I agree. Lakers, and although the Knicks did win last night, thank you, Knicks, appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of. I think it kind of hurts the league when the Lakers are a bad product. Like, it's not the best. I don't know why they don't show like Boston a little more or like the other big markets a little more. But yeah, it seems like the LA's on all the time, but they have not been producing.
TV.
And if it's not the Lakers, it's the Clippers. It's all about the Benjamins, you know.
Yeah,
That's true.
I feel like they're on late at night a lot too. But
why aren't we showing Kings games? Sabonis is big.
It's all about eyeballs. It's all about the new TV contract that drops in like 2 or 3 years. They got to get as much revenue, as much eyeballs as they can from the big markets so they can negotiate some triple, quadrillion, billion-dollar deal to make all the owners richer. I mean, it's all a money game.
There was a game about this is probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't think I mentioned it in our chat, but I mentioned it in a different group chat. And the Lakers got boat raced by like 35, and they were the national television game of the night. Man, how stupid does TNT look airing this game when you could have had Wolves Grizzlies, which was an absolute grinder, a great, phenomenal basketball game, and everyone's watching this blowout run on TNT. They're like, get these guys out of here.
By the way, remember at the beginning of the season when I was going to all these games and we were losing?
Yeah.
I was at that Memphis game. So
tides are turning, baby.
You've turned it around, man. Just like Malik Beasley. Just like Malik Beasley, you just got to stick with it and keep just plugging away, and it's going to start going your way.
Just keep spending money.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best ability is availability. Well, if you're available all the time, sooner or later you're going to see one, right?
That's
yeah.
right.
So I will warn you. My next game is. I also saw them beat Miami this year. So I mean, those are two pretty good wins. Oh, and so I guess I've been on a pretty good streak lately. I was also at that what was it? What was the game went to overtime? That Charlotte game?
Yeah.
So I got at least 3 wins this year. So I only have 1 left. It's that Laker game. So that'll be a pretty big one. But I mean, I got to see Bron. So I've been I got a LeBron. I've been a LeBron stan for years, and I saw
the best meme. It showed Tatum and who else? Somebody else went for 50 recently, some young guy. Doesn't matter. It was like some 23-year-old guy, and it showed like four players in the screen, and it said, you know, the league's in good hands, or the future of the league's in good hands, and it showed 3 like 23-year-old guys who scored 50, and then LeBron scoring 56. It's just like just keeps going, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like
10 years from now, he'll be dropping 50 on people.
I think what's most crazy about LeBron, just quick, is they've been starting him at like center lately. Like, what? So, like, this dude's playing everywhere. It's just.
I said this 3 years ago. What they should do is play him at power forward and let him. You're going to extend his career if he doesn't have to bring the ball up every damn time. Like, let him set. Who wants to guard? What power forward wants to guard him? He just brings him out to the perimeter and just slaughters him on a first step. Or he just, he's still bigger than most of the power forwards. He can work him in the post. Like, take some of the miles off those treads, you know, which was, I think, the hope with Kendrick Nunn, but he never came back, or even with Westbrook, you know, like, let Bron not be the main ball handler. See how that works. So they'll figure it out.
One more quick note on the Lakers. I believe that Russell Westbrook has a player option next year for $47 million. So obviously he's going to opt into that. Looking at the Lakers moving forward, it's like, holy cow, man.
My question is, if this season goes right, will LeBron be there? Because I don't know. I don't know about that.
I mean, I think so. Where else would he go?
That's a good point.
maybe he'll just stay there and wait for them to be as bad as possible so that they can draft his son, Bronny James, and they can play 1 year together and then they'll retire.
That's the thing. Do we know how good is? I haven't seen any tape.
Not good.
He's not. He's not like the next second coming or anything.
He's a second coming of international player right now, like of Shabazz Mohammed. I think he's looked at as like a low second round pick right now, but he's young. I think he's still a sophomore, isn't he? Is he a junior?
I think he's got 2 more years till he's eligible to be drafted in the NBA. So that would make him a junior, I think.
And I think he's averaging I thought I saw he was averaging like 7 points and like 4 rebounds or something.
Nice.
Like he's not doing anything. But I mean, he's athletically made a big jump. I saw because 2 years ago he couldn't dunk. And then I saw him like windmill dunking in this before this season. So
right.
Who knows? I mean, he might grow 4 inches and be a whole nother player.
Now, wouldn't this be funny if now we've heard all the stuff that LeBron wants to play with Bronny. What about this? What if Bronny gets drafted by a team, gets put in the G League, so LeBron puts himself in the G League, and that G League team wins the championship?
I'd love that.
Oh man, that comment's great.
All right, what do we got? I like that. Oh, Justin. Oh, that's my friend. I do another show. What's up, Justin? Good. Thanks for hopping along. But
this
yeah,
is my look, man. this is what you get every day.
This is the best you get right here, baby.
Yeah, this is it. I wake up, I put on the same T-shirt, and that's how I live my life.
You're like Arthur or Jimmy Neutron. You just put on
it's like it's like living the salt life, but you're in Minnesota, so you're just kind of like a bum.
It's like Groundhog Day, except every day.
Yeah,
right.
I got my own haircut going. I cut my own hair the other day, so
like you were saying, it is hard. We were saying before the show, it is hard to adjust your hair in this because everything's flipped. So
yeah, you're backwards.
When I try to adjust my hat, it's like shoot. But anyway, so should we? It looks like we're getting close to game time. Should we put an exclamation point there?
Yeah, that's what do we got coming up? What are the next couple week games?
Let's take a look. So tonight, obviously, if you're listening to this right now, not later on podcast, we got let's see here. Let me go to the schedule.
Thunder, Magic. Oh, we got a road trip. Thunder's after.
No, we're at home. We're at home. Yeah,
yep.
Trailblazers
and then we get
tonight, home versus Thunder, then in Orlando, in Miami, at Spurs, then Lakers. So, I mean, going into that Laker game, if we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we go 5-1 in that stretch, I don't see why we're not right there.
Yeah,
that's just it. These other teams aren't going to keep winning forever, and neither are we. So it's going to be one of those when the pole bends instead of breaks type of thing, because I mean, there's so many teams within 3 games, but not everybody can win every single night. And if we have 44 wins, is that good for a 6 seed? I mean, I think it probably is.
Where's that Miami game?
At Miami.
I think it's in Miami. In Miami.
By the way, it's Jake Layman's birthday. I predict him getting 15 tonight.
Minutes?
He could. I mean, if he was on the Blazers, he'd be starting tonight.
Yes, he would be.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So let's end it there. Jared, thanks so much for being here.
As always, man, it's always a blast to sit down and talk basketball. In the heart of the swing of things, we had a few weeks off. Hopefully, we'll be back again next week. Nothing better than sitting in the basement and talking Wolves in the heart of the playoffs, baby.
Absolutely. Right. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, I mean, Skyping in from Fort Myers, it's been beautiful. Nice and warm. Everything's good.
And this is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. And make sure to follow us on Spotify so you never miss an episode. And as always, go Wolves.